The Panthers squander their chance at getting home ice in the first round of the Stanley Cup Playoffs after giving up 4 unanswered goals to the Rangers. And now, Game 82 means absolutely nothing.
You're Locked On Panthers, your daily podcast on the Florida Panthers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into this Tuesday, April 15th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. I'm Armando Velez from the Hockey News, and you could follow me on X and Blue Sky at Mondoman12. Follow the show account on X and Instagram at LO_FLA Panthers and on Blue Sky at LA Panthers. You can follow the podcast anywhere you listen to podcasts and on YouTube. Make sure to subscribe, and if you're on the YouTube channel, make sure to press that like button down below. And shout out to the everydayers who come back here and get your daily Florida Panthers fix. So, Panther fans, grateful to be back here once again on the show to discuss everything in the world of the Florida Panthers. Even in a game, home game number 41 for the Panthers, where they squandered their chances in order to put pressure on the Tampa Bay Lightning. And a lot had to go right for the Panthers in these last few games for even to get home ice to begin with. They had to win on Monday, win on Tuesday in regulation, and then the Tampa Bay Lightning lose in regulation on Thursday against the New York Rangers. And now the Panthers don't even have a chance at that. Now locked into the number 3 seed in the Atlantic Division. The Panthers were up as much as 3-1 against the New York Rangers with less than 5 minutes left in the second period. Sam Reinhart gets 2 goals on the night, 39 goals on the season now for him. Carter Verhaeghe now on a 3-game goal streak for him after a goal that was redirected. Now a 20-goal season once again for Swaggy after he struggled so much in this one. The Panthers were playing without the entire third line of Anton Lundell, Etulu and Brad Marchand, no Mackie Samoskevich, but Sam Bennett and Dmitry Kulikov did make their returns to the lineup. And the Panthers, even then, for how the game was going with them going north-south and just how well they were getting through, Dmitry Kulikov was paired with Gustav Forsling, and they were pushing play with getting activated in the offense for them and then just winning a good amount of their board battles there. And then on their 2 penalty kills for them, only 2 total shots allowed for them. The second one that they had, no shots allowed. And then the first one, it was the second power play unit for the Rangers that got their chances. And everything in the first 35 minutes for the Panthers said that they were going to get the 2 points. They were going to set everything up for that big matchup on Tuesday. And then all of a sudden, 2 goals in a minute and 38 seconds for the New York Rangers. And all of a sudden, the Panthers go into the third period and they have to push the offense a little bit more in order for them to at least get the 2 points. It didn't matter for this one if the Panthers won in regulation or overtime, knowing that they weren't going to own a tiebreaker either way. What mattered was getting the 2 points for them. So this was really about attention to detail and focus for the Panthers here, losing a board battle at the half wall, and then Juuso Parssinen getting to the crease at ease, and then the redirection from Keandre Miller, and then redirecting the puck there for the Rangers, and then in transition a whiff at the neutral zone by Jacob Megna, and then the middle was left wide open for Zibanejad to get it to JT Miller. And then going into the third period, Panthers were on the power play. The units are a little mixed up for game 81 of the season. Obviously the line combinations are mixed up for the last 2 games as well, with all the call-ups up, and even for the Panthers, that fourth line of Nosek, Greer, and Gadjevich, they were even playing decently well, getting the pucks in deep and winning a whole bunch of their battles, only allowing 1 shot on goal at 5-on-5 total for that line. The Panthers were doing everything in the first 35 minutes to win the hockey game, but you know, like going back to that power play where the Panthers gave up the shorthanded goal for them, where Matt Rempe got a knee-on-knee collision with Noshek. Just a mishandling of the puck by Jesper Boquist, and then it ends up in the back of their net. JT Miller sets up Vincent Trocheck, who was playing in game number 800 for him, and then beats Sergei Bobrovsky on that one-timer. And to think that the fourth line of the New York Rangers, the Brodzinski, Kreider, Rempe line, that was the line that was pushing play throughout the majority of the game, just getting in transition, especially in the third period, and then the chances created that they had, and facing up against a backup goaltender in Jonathan Quick, who's had the Panthers number in his career. He's going to be a future Hall of Famer for him, but thinking that he's on the back nine of his career, and to think that the Rangers being eliminated from playoff contention, knowing that all the drama that's gone on with their in their organization, that they would just maybe lay down and quit. But these bottom guys in their lineup are still trying to find places for them in the future. So that's another thing that you got to be careful here for when you're facing up against an opponent that and even Paul Maurice spoke about this at Morning Skate on Monday, that the teams that are eliminated, like he even mentioned them by name, that Buffalo and New York, there's a lot of risk that they're able to take, that there's no consequences for taking risks for them. And really it paid off for the New York Rangers here on the night compared to the Florida Panthers there. And even when the Panthers did go up 3-1 at the time, where Barkov with a beautiful setup to Sam Reinhart created space off Brodzinski, and then he beat Jonathan Quick for goal number 39. Sergei Bobrovsky made an outstanding save just moments earlier, where Kreider got a few handles on the puck, got a rebound, got his own, and then backhanded it to Brodzinski, and then Bob flailing in his crease, and then preventing Matt Rempe from getting the third opportunity for the Rangers. Even in that first period, after Matt Rempe scored, the Panthers went 11 minutes and 47 seconds the rest of that period without giving up a single shot. So that's kind of the good news for the Panthers. It's another 10 plus minute stretch of not giving up a shot on goal, and that's really a little bit of what we could take away as far as a positive for the Panthers. I spoke about Kulikov with Gustav Forsling, the Barkov line setting the tone. But again, it's those little moments and lapses that continue to just burn the Panthers. And just for this one, it's just you want to give yourself a chance for your team. And with how the Panthers were managing the last few minutes of the third period, once they went down 4-3, and the fact that they had the last change, that they weren't sending out the Barkov line for them, or even Sam Bennett's line for them with Jesper Boquist on that line, along with Evan Rodriguez. It just goes to show that they were looking at bigger fish to fry as far as who to put their matchups in, and that they weren't going to overexert themselves or tax themselves for them going into the postseason with just so much time off for them. And that's just what I thought of the whole thing when it came to it. I'm a little annoyed, but I'm not angry for how the Panthers handled things. Are there still things to fine tune for the Panthers here? Maybe a few things, just about how they protect the middle of the ice. But again, we see that this team just when they get a full complement of their guys back into the mix, we've seen what this team can do. And even Paul Maurice even said it after the game. He's seen what he's needed to see, and he has an idea of what the lineup is going to look like for them. And also, Paul Maurice even said after the game, and I'm paraphrasing this, is that after the game, both teams were making a crap ton of mistakes, and won't go too much into detail on what went wrong in that one. So he doesn't seem to be annoyed by any sense of the imagination for him on his squad. And just this isn't new territory for the Panthers, though, because 2023 they went on the road and made it to the Cup final. We've seen this for the last 2.5 weeks now for the Panthers on just their approach, on just once that matinee game against the Detroit Red Wings happened, where they lost the night before, the afternoon before in Ottawa, that was the time to start looking at big picture things, and we saw it more, even though we did see the top line together, that they weren't getting on the ice. It was just about getting ready, because the Panthers after Tuesday are going to have 5 days off before their next game. But in segment number 2, we are going to discuss our 3 duds of the game and the moment where we knew the game was lost. We're going to discuss that and more next here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by wonderful pistachios. And are you looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with wonderful pistachios. Wonderful pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller longer. Personally, I love the no-shells variety. It's the perfect grab-and-go snack for busy days, whether I'm snacking at my desk, a road trip, or just need a quick protein boost. They're always my go-to. And if you love cracking open every shell for that satisfying crunch, the in-shell options are a classic favorite. Get snacking and cracking with a snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. Segment 2 here on this Tuesday, April 15th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day here on a Tuesday, where the Florida Panthers lose to the New York Rangers by a final score of 5-3 in home game number 41 of the season, game number 81 for them. And now let's get to our 3 duds of the game for this one. Number 3 dud is Nate Schmidt. Had the worst stat card for the Florida Panthers according to Hockey Stat Cards. Just let Matt Rempe walk around him on that 5th goal, where he didn't really close the gap well, and created a high danger chance where Brodzinski finished it off for the Panthers' hope on home ice. I'm not going to necessarily blame him on the Juuso Parssinen goal. I blame that more on Uvis Balinskis going up to the circle, trying to cover Will Cooley, and then allowing Juuso Parssinen to get that clear lane to the net. So it's just another of battles along the strong side when they're lost, and then the Panthers are not quick to protect the middle of the ice for them. Number 2 dud for the Panthers here is Jesper Boquist, and I thought that he had a great start of the game with how physical he was and how much he was using his speed on the puck as well for them, but just to mishandle it at the wrong time, and it allowed Miller to dish it, JT Miller to dish it to his childhood friend, 2 guys from Pittsburgh, in JT Miller and Vincent Trocheck, and then dish it to Vincent Trocheck to one time it passed the short side of Sergei Bobrovsky, and that basically giving the New York Rangers their first lead of the game there for them. And then number 1 dud for the Panthers here. I haven't really put this guy as a dud outside of maybe like the 3rd or 4th game that he's played with the Panthers. Seth Jones, outmuscled by Matt Rempe on that first goal, allowing him to get behind after a face-off loss, and didn't protect the middle of the ice after Jacob Megna whiffed on the puck in the neutral zone. I'm not going to necessarily blame too much on Megna for the whiff, but it's basically for Seth Jones in that it's you gotta. I maybe if that's Nico Mikkola whiffing on that, you maybe trust your partner in order to use his long strides and his reach to recover the puck, but that where the middle was just not protected there, and that was the second goal for the Rangers in that minute and 38-second stretch. That really changed a lot of things and how the Panthers go into the next period with a lead versus being tied. And then JT Miller with his 22nd goal of the season for the Rangers there. And again, playing with an unfamiliar partner for him in Megna, and the fact that Nico Mikkola didn't play tonight, that is as far as long term about Seth Jones is concerned, and for the playoffs, he's gotten quite a few games under his belt with Nico Mikkola, so that isn't necessarily a concern there. And again, I was encouraged by the Kulikov Forsling pairing, where Kulikov, his first game in almost a month after that penalty that he took against the Islanders, where he landed on his forearm, and the fact that he was able to come back and at least get a game in him for them. It helps as a pair of every single pair that the Panthers would have in their lineup has a guy who could jump into the play and has a stay at home guy as well, which puts Nate Schmidt and Uwe Smolinskis back into the mix. And then when Aaron Ekblad is ready to come back in Game 3 of the Stanley Cup playoffs, you could shift Kulikov back and put him alongside with Nate Schmidt, which Dmitry Kulikov is more than comfortable playing on that right side. We've seen this over and over again with him. And I do like his chances, at least in the short term, to battle it in the net front battles with the points of the world, the Nikita Kucherovs, the Anthony Cirellis, assuming that the matchup in round 1 is going to be the Tampa Bay Lightning, which once again, the Toronto Maple Leafs are their magic number to clinch the division for the Atlantic is still at 1. So there still has a lot still has to happen in order for the Battle of Florida to be officially solidified there for them. So still not a lot to play for the Panthers, but something to play for the Tampa Bay Lightning for them. So the pairs that the Panthers are putting together here, it's a decent balance in my opinion. Unfortunately for the Panthers, to make matters worse, is that Nico Sturm took a shot off the forearm at the end of the game, and there was no update after. And Paul Maurice said that he's currently being evaluated by the medical staff. So right now we don't have anything on Nico Sturm for him. So that's going to be a huge loss, and what the Panthers could do defensively for them. So that's another thing. But the moment where I knew the game was lost is around the middle of the third period, after it was 4-3, where once again, I mentioned this earlier, the fact that there was faceoffs, and the fact that the Barkov line and the Bennett line weren't set on the ice, and the Panthers were just having a hard time after they were trailing to just get through the neutral zone and just to be able to, once they dumped the puck, it was the New York Rangers being the first team at the end boards whenever the Panthers did dump the puck, and then quickly able to break it out, and the Panthers not making life harder on Jonathan Quick. And I do want to discuss more of the minutes distribution on how the Panthers managed things tonight for them. Alexander Barkov played 15 minutes for him. Sam Reinhart 16. And Sam Bennett 17 minutes in his return to the lineup after missing the last 4 games for him. But pretty balanced minutes distribution, as Nico Sturm played 12 minutes for him. Jonah Gadjevich 13 minutes and 52 seconds for him. And again, Nosek, Gadjevich, that line for him alongside AJ Greer for them. I thought that was a line that was consistently giving themselves chances in the offensive zone, and still using up a whole bunch of time for them and getting the pucks deep for them. So that's another encouraging. I know that probably 2 out of the 3 are not going to play in the playoffs if they started today. Still the jury is out on that last that 12th forward spot for the Panthers, assuming that Nico Sturm is going to be okay. I assume that he is not going to be playing tomorrow against the Tampa Bay Lightning. And when you look at the Panthers and the month of April going into game number 82, 3-3-1, it doesn't scream world beaters for the Panthers when you look at the box score, but this is once again why you can't box score watch for the Panthers. They didn't fall off a cliff here neither. I was ready to celebrate a 4-game sweep of a homestand, similar like what they did last year, and they doing it while a chance to rest guys. But the fact that they, even in some of their losses prior to returning home, that it wasn't odd man rushes against as much, which the Panthers, even in this game prior to a lot of things, they did have that partial breakaway for the JT Miller goal, but still it wasn't much allowed for the Panthers here. So definitely something that could be encouraging is like the system doesn't change, even though some of the bodies change. Obviously, you have a certain ceiling when you have certain players in the lineup, when you have a full balanced approach for the Panthers here. But still, I'm liking what I see as far as the eye test. And man, I can't wait to just get all these guys back instead of just talking about the possibility of them and to actually see them in on ice action in a game setting, and the fact that we could, and the long anticipated wait for them to be over based on that. But it's going to be a fresh start for the Panthers. But now the Panthers have to turn the page to game number 82, and the mission for the Panthers going into this one is to not put their health in a worse enough shape, even though the Panthers were getting better coming into game number 81. But we're going to transition to segment number 3, where we are going to discuss more of that and what the Panthers could possibly do uh, in their matchup against Tampa Bay on Tuesday. We're going to discuss that more next here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Upwork. And scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more. Experts ready to help you take your business to the next level. Upwork gives businesses flexibility by connecting them with top freelance talents across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, and marketing. Whether you need extra hands for a project or a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. If you need help with a marketing campaign, Upwork can connect you with a freelance expert who delivered incredible results. Posting a job is free and simple within a day with multiple qualified candidates to choose from. Instead of hiring full-time, Upwork helps find affordable, top-tier freelancers to scale my business efficiently. Visit Upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That's Upwork.com, UPWORK.com, to connect with top talent and grow your business today. Segment 3 here on this Tuesday, April 15th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day here on a Tuesday. So it's finally here. The end of the road, the regular season. And the Panthers, like I said at the end of segment number 3, the objective, that's the proper term, I guess, here, is to just come out of this one unscathed. Your playoff position is locked in. Nothing you can do. But how hilarious would it be if Tampa Bay wins these next 2 games and the Leafs get 0 points out of the next 4, which they'll be on the road against Buffalo and then at home against Detroit. There are literally no excuses for them to drop all 4 points for them. And then Paul Bissonnette can be angry all he wants when it comes to this for him, his fear of the Panthers, which, by the way, Paul Bissonnette said that the Panthers could easily beat the Tampa Bay Lightning. I'm not ready to go there yet as far as easily. This is going to be a challenge. This is going to be a war for the Panthers here if they end up meeting. But Panthers also can't do anything more as far as lineup decisions because they use all 4 of their post-trade deadline call-ups. So we could be seeing a similar lineup for the Panthers, what we saw last Sunday against the Detroit Red Wings. Rest, rest, rest. Like I said, Nico Sturm is getting evaluated. The main guy is not playing. I assume that the Barkov line will get the day off. I believe that the third line will take the ice for warmups, but I think this is going to be a situation kind of what we saw in game number 82 in 2022, where Anton Lundell and Tuulus Tuirainen are on the bench, but they do not take a single shift in the game. That's what I believe is going to happen, because you need to put a full complement of 18 skaters on the ice. You need to find a way to do that. So the Rasmus Asplunds of the world will play again, which a dumb penalty that he took today, by the way. Jesse Puljujärvi will play once again as in an opportunity to prove himself that he could be part of this lineup, which I love what I'm seeing out of Puljujärvi once again. Chances are Gustav Forsling is going to rest, and you insert Matt Kiersted, who's with the team currently. So you put him in the lineup. With Kulikov coming back in injury, I don't know if you play him on both ends of the back-to-back. Paul Maurice said last week that he will return for one of the games of the back-to-back. So a little clue there on maybe what his line of thinking is there. But right now, I mean, it's funny because this was the final nail in the coffin for the Panthers and just not getting home ice. But I look at other games, not just Monday night, on just how they blew their chances over and over again. Mid-January against Philly, they had a lead and then collapsed there. Mid-March against Boston, up 2-0 and then 3 unanswered. A few days later on Long Island, where they were up 2-0, but they were playing like absolute crap while up 2-0, and it averaged out for the New York Islanders winning that game eventually. And then probably the worst loss of the season. I comment if there's a worse loss than this one that I'm about to say. April 1st against the Montreal Canadiens. In my opinion, that's the worst loss of the season as of right now. And then just the negative vibes that went into the very next day for them against the Toronto Maple Leafs, which for the most part put them behind the 8-ball for the division at the time. And all these losses that hurt their chances at home ice, funny enough, are road games, in my opinion, that really the Panthers squandered their chance. This was just the latest one against New York. But I have a question for you guys. What if this is the blessing in disguise for the Panthers here? Without Aaron Ekblad in the lineup, there would be so much pressure for the Panthers to get both games at home before hitting the road in his return. Yeah, you want a Game 7 at home if it comes to that. But going on the road where you know that you're more than capable of doing so, of winning, Matthew Tkachuk coming back into the mix for him, because there's no salary cap in the postseason, so he'll be able to get activated. That could be a blessing where the Panthers could find a way to get the split there, and that's all you need. And also, their road special teams is still the best in the NHL. Second best power play and the best penalty kill. No environment phases them. So, you know what I say to that when it comes to the Panthers starting off on the road? I say challenge accepted. People are going to have a few doubts. People are going to say, oh, the Panthers are fatigued. They're tired. The guys aren't going to mesh back well together because of the amount of time they've had off. But a lot of guys are familiar with their line mates or their deep pair partners as well. So I don't necessarily completely buy that for that narrative for the Panthers here. So we will see. Aaron Ekblad is back on the ice. He's been back on the ice, and even had one Keith Yandel help him touch pucks on the ice for him and help him out with some drills. He said he would watch Gustav Forsling and then try to impersonate what he would do on the ice the very next day on his own on ice activities for them. Obviously, it's not the same as game action, but he's fresh. He has less miles on him. It's not an injury situation for Ekblad here. So that is a little bit of another luxury for him. The Panthers just have to do the job right before he does, in fact, return for him. So I believe that the Panthers, no environment phases them, that it's going to be cinema. It's going to be fireworks. it's going to be quite the battle. And yes, I'm assuming already that it's going to be the Tampa Bay Lightning, and Game 1 is going to start at Amalie Arena. But also, there aren't arena conflicts for now that we know where the series is going to start. No concerts the rest of the way for the month of April at Amerant Bank Arena. So we know that there's clear dates there. There's only one concert at Amalie Arena on the 26th, and that will be when the series shifts to South Florida. So we could see this series start as early as Saturday. Who knows for them? So that is another thing on just to keep an eye out for on when this series is going to start. But there's still a lot to talk about right before the actual series. On just tomorrow, we're gonna discuss the game. We're gonna discuss the playoff situation for the Panthers if it does end up being a battle of Florida, and also we are gonna discuss with Jacob Winans more of how would we grade this regular season for the Panthers here, just on how they manage things post winning a Stanley Cup. I'm doing a production meeting on the air for what I'm going to talk about, because if the Panthers had won, I would go full game breakdown for the Panthers here, on just because it was a game that it would have been a game that meant something, but it's not going to be a game that would mean anything. So it alters even my plans on what I'm going to do on Tuesday night going into Wednesday, as far as content creating for him and I, Jacob Winans and I. But outside of the Panthers game, there's still a lot of hockey to watch. Like I said, Maple Leaf Sabres, Columbus Blue Jackets versus the Philadelphia Flyers, with the Habs losing in a shootout. If the Columbus Blue Jackets don't win in regulation, they're done. But if they win in regulation, they put the pressure back on Montreal, who plays game 82 on Wednesday against Carolina. And then out west, the battle for the last wildcard spot, with Calgary visiting the Vegas Golden Knights, but they need St. Louis or Minnesota to lose, and that will be game 82 for them. Ducks will be welcoming in the Wild will be welcoming in the Anaheim Ducks, and the Utah Hockey Club will be on the second end of a back-to-back in St. Louis. So it's gonna be fun. We're getting to the end, and then the real season starts. But make sure to come back tomorrow, where Jacob Winans and I will discuss everything as far as the Panthers. We might discuss Tuesday night's game. We might not. We're just gonna see what kind of lineup, not only that Paul Maurice puts out there, but how the game script goes for that. So we'll play it by ear for sure when it comes to our Wednesday show plans. But thank you guys for listening, and I will see you guys on Wednesday. But in the meantime, if you like what you're hearing, please subscribe to the podcast to be notified every single time the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast jumps into your podcast feed. Don't forget to also subscribe to the other shows on the Locked On NHL network, including Locked On NHL, Locked On Fantasy Hockey, Flip Livingstone and Steel Roden, Locked On NHL Prospects with Sebastian High, and a show that is going on 7 days a week on the Locked On NHL feed, Locked On NHL Game Night. Make sure to check that out, and each and every day here on the Locked On Network. So I'm Armando Velez, signing off. And you've been listening to Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We're your team every day.